The last lesson was written by Alphonse Daudet, and he was a French novelist and a short story writer. Right? And in this story, the French district of Alsace and Lorraine have passed into Prussian hands, and after reading this story, you will find out that how and what kind of effect this had on life at school and people in general. Not only that, but also you will feel other effect as well, like time and language. Hello dear student, welcome back. You are here with me again with new videos. That is going on the last lesson. The name of this lesson is the last lesson, although this is the first lesson of your book. The last lesson. Written by Alphonse Daudet. Here Alphonse Daudet has introduced such an interesting thing to us, which is so worthy. So you all stay with me till end. Hamel. Who is Hamel? I don't know. Yes, he's a French teacher. He's a French teacher. Well, in the district of Alsace and Lorraine, there was a school, and in that school he used to teach the student what? French language. Providing his last lesson. He was providing his last lesson. Why he was providing the last lesson? Because this part of France has been conquered and has won by the German, and German want to introduce their own language in the schools of Alsace and Lorraine, and that's why they have been asked to leave the schools of but and where? In schools से जितने भी French teacher हैं चले जाएंगे, because they want to introduce their own language in those schools. Okay, that's why it was the last lesson. Franz, a student. Franz was a student, and he was the kind of student who always come late in the classroom. Okay, never. Okay, never attentive in French. Franz was a student who was not very much attentive, although it was his own language and his, उसकी अपनी language थी, his own language. Still, he was not interested in to learn it. Why? Although he was late, but Mr. Hamel उसको scold नहीं किया, chide नहीं किया. Why? ऐसा क्यों हुआ? Why did that happen? See? Silence in the class when he reached there in the classroom. Dressing style of the Hamel. Having seen the dressing style of Mr. Hamel, he was a little shocked. And French, here, his last lesson. Franz knew his last lesson. How? Okay. Effect of his last lesson on French. How it was? See. Ask him to recite. Hamel ने उसको बोला कि जरा आप recite तो करिए, पढ़िए तो सही. And made understood about time and language. And how he said that this is the most wondrous, logical, cleanest, the beautiful language of the world. Let me tell you. Mr. Hamel said that French is the most logical, cleanest, and beautiful language of the world. So you should pay attention to it, to learn this language. Right? Very attentive. All were very much attentive, especially because of this last lesson. They were paying all attention to it. Not only Mr. Franz was very much attentive at that day, but also all the villagers, those who were there to pay tribute to this man for the 40 years faithful service of Mr. Hamel. Right? Little flags floating everywhere. It seems ऐसा लग रहा था मानो classroom के अंदर, little flags floating everywhere. Right? That was just his imaginations. And then thinking about all things in surrounding Mr. Hamel, because he was there for last 40 years. He was doing his teaching. He was teaching French language more than 40 years. Right? Now he was thinking, and he was दिमाग में तो चल रहा था कि मुझे अब ये छोड़ना पड़ेगा. He was thinking about all things that was around him and surrounding this school and surrounding etc. Okay, lesson in history, and after that, after telling him that how logical, how beautiful this language is too, so there was a lesson on history, and then he was trembled with emotion. Why he was trembled with emotion? Because he has done the great job to this language, and this is going to be the last lesson. Right? That's why he was trembling with emotions. And his last word, उसके last word क्या थे? By the France जिंदाबाद, long live. Okay, these were some very special things that I brought out from the lessons on which we can make discussions, on which we can move ahead in the lessons, that how we can solve this. You see, there are some questions which is very important to tell you. There are some short questions in this lesson which will help you a lot, like what was French expected to be prepared with for school that day? French teacher had asked the students to prepare a lesson on participle, but it was a great tragedy that Mr. French didn't know anything about his language. So the French was expected to prepare the rules of participle that day. What did Franz notice that was unusual about the school that day? See, when Franz reached near the school, he heard no uproar, no hustle and bustle of the school. It was as quiet as Sunday morning. He saw his teacher, Mr. Hamel, and who had put on beautiful green coat, his frilled shirt and the little black silk cap which he rarely put on. Not only that, but also he saw there were the villagers there, sitting at the back benches. And the whole classroom seemed so strange and solemn. Hearing that this is your last French lesson, he was so shocked, so surprised, which was so unusual, eccentric to him. What had been put up on the bulletin board? Answer of this question is very easy. Alsace and Lorraine were the French districts, and they were occupied by the Prussian. There was an order put up on the bulletin board that in place of French language, they want to introduce their own German language, and that's why in this order, and according to this order, all the French language teachers have been asked to leave the school. What changes did the order from Berlin cause in school that day? What can be the answer? See, that day the school seemed very strange and solemn, and Mr. Hamel made his last French lesson, right? Stating it to be the most beautiful and logical language of the world. And there was a sad feeling in school. Now only German would be taught to them. The people had come to thank him for rendering faithful service for 40 years. Mr. Hamel served this school for 40 years. So it was natural for him to be sad. Right? He had been very sincere and dedicated teacher, and his contribution in the school were the symbol of his sincerity. And there was a look of sadness tinged with emotion on his face. But for the friends and other people, it was really a great change here. The people in this story suddenly realize how precious their language is to them. What shows you this? Why does this happen? Very important question. In this story, people suddenly realize the importance of their native language, their mother tongue. When Mr. Hamel makes them aware of it, he tells them about the importance of mother tongue, the French language. He also tells them if they are enslaved, right? As long as they are, enslaved, they hold fast to their language. Right? It is as if they had the key to their prison. It's a key to their freedom. The Mr. Hammer tells them that they have been wasting their time all these years. He calls them that they must try to preserve their native language. It's so much helpful. We should preserve it, guard it, so that it can help us in our crucial time. There are some more important questions that I will tell you. Like, what causes did Mr. Hamel give for students not learning their lessons? What are the reasons that we usually find excuses that I have plenty of time, baad mein dekh lenge? See, the Mr. Hamel spoke very candidly, very frankly about the nature of students for not learning their lessons regularly. Students generally are in the habit of putting off their studies. They often say to themselves, we have plenty of time. We shall learn it tomorrow. We will see it later. Right? He also blames the parents who are not serious about the education of their children, who always put their children in work so that he can get some more money. And then he blames the teachers also, who seek some help from the students to do their work. राइट कैसे उनके काम करेंगे लाइक मिस्टर हैमल भी बोलते हैं कि क्या मैंने भी आपको छुट्टियां मैं देता रहा हूं जब भी मुझे फिशिंग करने के लिए जाना होता था या फिर गार्डन में पानी देना है तो आई हैव ऑलवेज पुट यू देयर राइट दिस इज समथिंग and why Mr. Hamill said while leaving the school it was quite obvious that he was there for a 40 year and now at once he received the order that you have to leave this place because we want to introduce our own language German language in this school. So you please leave these schools. Right? There was a look of sadness, tense with emotion on his face. What particular thing did Franz notice when he looked at his seat in the classroom? See, the first thing Franz noticed that was his teacher's very fine dress and he was wearing a very beautiful green coat and a frilled shirt and he had a little, बहुत ही एक अच्छी सी सिल्की कैप भी थी उन्होंने जो डाली हुई थी. It was all embroidered and Mr. Hamill never wore it except on inspection and prize days. The whole school seems very strange, but the thing that surprised Franz most was at the back of the room. Who were those there? वहाँ कौन थे वो? In the village, people were sitting there on the back benches. They were sitting quiet in the class. They included old Hauser, the former mayor, the former postmaster, and many others. Everybody looked sad, and Hauser had brought with him an old primer, and he was holding it open on his knees. His great spectacles were lying across the pages. When people are enslaved as long as they hold fast to their language, it is as if they had the key to their prison. Can you think of example in history where conquered people had their language taken away from them and had a language imposed on them? Yes, there are a number of examples in history where vanquished people were deprived of their own language. The British conquered India and imposing a language on Indians. Right? It was in their own interest to keep India under subjugation, under control, and to run their administration. Mental slavery is deeply rooted with the foreign language. Even today, we feel ourselves in the grip of foreign language. No doubt, English is an international language. It is helping us. But no language can be a substitute to a mother tongue, and a mother tongue is a language of the heart. So it is rightly said that when people are enslaved as long as they hold fast to their language, it is as if they had the key to their prison. Indian also had and hold fast to their native language. The great leaders like Mahatma Gandhi, Sardar Patel, and many more like them advocate the use of Hindi. This helped us to preserve our identity and thus to preserve our freedom. What happens to a linguistic minority in a state and how do you think they can keep their language alive? So see, India is a land of diversity and there is diversity of religion, caste, language and culture and we have people of different religions and caste in India and we are also divided, right, regionally. People from one state go to the other for job, business and study and the linguistic minority in the state can form their social group for social interaction. They can celebrate Diwali, Eid, Onam as per their own faith. Culture, tradition, culture, art and architecture unites us together. They are a subculture in a culture, like Punjabi in Bangalore, Tamil in Mumbai, and other like Gujarati in Kolkata, and they can make other people aware of their own language and culture. And the celebration of a particular day give minority people a separate identity, and by doing so, he can keep their language alive. Last one is here. Is it possible to carry pride in one's language too far? Do you know what linguistic chauvinism means? Very important question, right? And answer of these questions can be like human society can't do without a language and a language can't exist and develop outside society, right? So it is not only possible but also natural to take pride in one's language. Taking pride is not bad, right? It is not bad. Language makes us possible to communicate with the rest of the world. But believing that our native language is the best is not good. Blind enthusiasm is illogical and irrational. Aggressive and unreasonable belief leads to bitterness. Everything in this world is changing fast. Even the most developed and advanced language of the world are under a process of change. We are global citizens. And it is not good to confine ourselves to the narrow walls of blind chauvinistic feelings. Even within the country, this type of feeling may lead to communism. and communal clashes. It may pose danger to national unity and integrity, right? It may sometimes hurt the patriotic feeling of the people speaking a particular language. In the modern times, we cannot confine language to watertight compartment. If it is so, it wouldn't grow and may lose its purity like stagnant water. French thinks, will they make them sing in Germany, even the peasants? What could this mean? See, this statement is made by France in a sarcastic manner and it has a symbolic meaning. How? See, the German order to stop the teaching of French and introducing German show the linguistic chauvinism of the Germans. And the people have resented this and they have not liked it. So, linguistic chauvinism is bad and the love for one's language is natural, but there should be no hatred for the language of others. The peasant cannot taught to sing in German or even in other language, any other language. They have their own language which they cannot be made to love and learn any other language. So no one can take away your mother tongue from you. So you should guard and you should respect your language. That's it. That was the last lesson written by Alphonse Daudet. I hope you will make it possible to learn all the questions of this lesson within 15 minutes. See you soon in the next video. Till then, bye bye. Stay blessed.